What's going on, good people? Eddie Gray back at it again. We're talking about IK MultiMedia's Modo Bass. Yesterday I covered Modo drums. I gave you my initial thoughts, and today we look into this incredible feat of modern engineering. They're calling it the first physically modeled electric bass. There's a lot of hype surrounding this instrument, so let's go. Modo Bass is the first physically modeled bass virtual instrument that gives you an unprecedented realistic performance for your bass tracks. As a producer, you want the best possible bass sound you can get. You want realism, credibility, and authenticity that delivers the most accurate and inspiring performance. Sometimes you just can't hire the right bass player, and some virtual instruments out there can leave you flat and uninspired. To say the least, there certainly are not a lot of great bass virtual instruments. I think some of them are okay. They are pretty decent. But in the case of Modo Bass, they truly have created something really special. Let's read a little bit more. Modo Bass is the first technology of its kind that models the entire process of playing the bass. Similar to Modo Drum from yesterday, where not only did we get the room sound, not only did we get the playing style, the various grooves, but we also got these sticks that they were using, right? And when they were hitting the snare, where was that position? There were so many details that you just don't find in any other virtual instrument. Here it says every component that contributes to the unique tonal properties of a bass player and the effects that each of those components has on the other. Interactions between tone variable has been recreated to give you a dynamic, living, breathing, and ever-changing performance. So what kind of things are we talking about? Well, I'm going to give you just a quick run through, but you're talking about the various bass models, pickup types, whether you're talking about single coil, humbuckers, that kind of thing. The playing styles. In other words, are they playing with their fingers, which is going to have a bit more of a rounded sound? Are they slapping, right? Are they picking? And when they're picking, what position are they picking in? What's the strength of that pluck, so on and so forth? Stroke direction, are they palm muting? It's great. Are we hearing string noise? Check this out. You can actually name and define the string gauge. This is bananas. You've never seen this before. Nobody has ever modeled, to my knowledge, the string gauge. We know that if we string a bass instrument or a guitar with a heavier gauge, it's going to sound different, right? It's going to come across as a different instrument. So that, on top of all of your various amp and effects units, has really created something very special in the IK MultiMedia family. So let's go ahead and check it out right now. Just a beautiful, beautiful instrument. Let's get right into it. And here are all of the various stock models. Okay, I'm excited. Let's do it. All right, so here is the unit. I've set up a couple of different MIDI performances here just to kind of get us up and running. And this is Modo Bass GUI, very sleek, easy to use. At the top of the screen, we have all of the various bass models, everything from a 60s P bass, modern jazz bass, Ernie Ball, Rickenbacker, the Thunder bass, looks like the proverbial Paul McCartney bass, Japanese bass, 5-string basses. I don't know if they have 6 strings. I haven't seen that yet. But let's start just with their first offering. And we are inside of the first category, which is model, right? 1 of 6, right? We have play style, strings, the electronics, humbuckers, the neck, etc., the amp and effects, and finally control. So this is just a quick walkthrough of all the features. On another one of the next videos, I will be going into the user guide itself and picking this apart bit by bit. All right, so let's just listen and then we'll talk about some of the features here. Okay, so from the gate, it's really cool. I can determine where he's going to play. So if she's going to play, let's say a little bit closer to the bottom of the bass here, you're gonna have a much brighter sound. Check it out. So just that alone is worth the price of admission, simply because now if I have a breakdown, I can make the song shift dynamically. I can change the performance of the bass. So this is probably well suited for some kind of verse breakdown. And then when the song opens up and we start bringing in some of the other parts, we can play this a bit higher in the neck. Check it out. Absolutely incredible. So that is one of the very first things, right? So then on top of that, we can play with the fretboard to, you know, audition the various notes. You can also play with the MIDI keyboard here at the bottom. Let's listen to some of these various models. Here's the 70s P bass. So kind of like how on the main screen, they're letting you know if it's muted or not. That's a good reminder just in case, I don't know, maybe you forget. Here's a modern jazz bass. As I stated yesterday, this company is solving a major problem, and that problem is, hey, it's going to cost me X amount to hire somebody every single time. And if the bass is simply not the most important part of what you do, and you just need a sense of realism, this is really not a bad investment if you really think about it. Why should you record bass? Well, of course, if your band is very guitar driven and you want the real thing, nothing is ever going to beat the real thing, although we're getting pretty close, as you can tell here. But this is really going to help a lot of creatives out there, so I'm really stoked about it. All right, let's go to playing style, and for this I'm going to select let's go with this modern jazz bass. All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about playing style. So here is playing with the fingers, which sounds so realistic. I play with my fingers, so I definitely know the sound. It has a warmer sound simply because of the flesh around the finger, right? And when you're hitting the string, it has a very particular timbre. All right, let's go to pick. So this is probably not the best performance to highlight picking. Let me go ahead and highlight this, and let's see if this sounds any better. There we go. Okay, so part of making this work is setting it up and defining the part, right? If I give it a part that makes a little bit more sense for finger positioning, then that's not going to necessarily work. And so this works for picking. Let's see what it sounds like with your fingers. That is crazy because now the bass player is picking and also palm muting at the same time, and that really does sound realistic. So this is really cool. Another win. All right, let's go with slapping. I don't think I want to mute a slap. I don't even know if it's possible to mute a slap. Let's listen to this. Sounds pretty realistic to me. Let me go ahead and throw the Ernie ball. I'm assuming that is the Ernie ball. Check this out. All right, so then now we've gone over all three of these. We know what muting does. Let's talk about these strokes. So we can alternate between the various index finger, middle finger, going back and forth between those two. So let's see what happens if we just play with the index finger. That's going to affect the bass sound in a very particular way. Take a listen. But nobody really plays like that, especially with this style. Again, you have to set up the bass for the performance. So it probably makes a little bit more sense with a part like this. It's going back and forth between these notes to play in an alternate style. Yeah, so that sense of realism really carries through. All right, what's touch about? Looks like we can play soft. Again, something else. They've thought of so many details. So when we play and when we consider the playing style, if they're palm muting, and if they're kind of stroking the bass with one finger, or they're kind of going back and forth between one or the other, then how are they playing? In this case, let's pretend we're writing something heavy, so we're playing hard. Now, what's interesting, I've noticed that when we switch from one playing style to another, we get some different categories. So when I go to pick, we're no longer dealing with how hard we're touching the bass, but if we're scratching the bass. So let's listen to this. Here's normal. And here is hard. I think I'd better gonna hear that with this performance. Let's see if that's true. Now, I think that kind of performance is better suited for the finger play style. Let me go ahead and check this one out. Okay, so that makes sense. When the player strikes the bass and the pick hits the strings, how are they doing it, right? Normal or hard. All right, so let's check out letting it ring. So this is an interesting feature. It basically disregards the entire length of your MIDI events. So here, check it out. For example, this first MIDI event only plays up to here, but it's just going to disregard and play it all the way through. So I'm not sure if they're using sustain or something to carry it through, but here, take a listen. Again, really nice. Just way to go about it. We can have the verse play out like this, and then I can have another instance of Modo Bass going into, let's say, a more exciting part of the song where we let this one ring out. So to sound something like here, I know I'm kind of just hacking it here, but this one is going to ring out and this one is not. Okay, so here, something like this. The fingering position. Are we in first position? Are we in easy mode, or are we in nearest? So I'm pretty sure this has to do with where they're positioned within the neck of the fretboard. But here, let's see if we can dissect this. Because this piece is very simple, I wonder if this has more to do with playing a low note to high or something like that. Like if you play a fill and you're in nearest, yeah. So let me just play a basic scale, I guess. So you see, I'm not traveling in the fretboard here, whereas if I change fingering to first position, I'm pretty sure this is going to stay within the first 4 frets. Let's see if this is true. Until, of course, it does. I mean, until it can't, right? So why is this relevant? Well, let's say you're playing something in the world of, I don't know, Southern rock or something, and you don't want the high timbre associated with playing higher up in the fretboard. Then you don't have to do that. You can just stay up here. So that's pretty cool. And then you have easy. So I'm not sure what the difference between those two are. But anyway, cool stuff. Open strings. We know that if we play a bass or a guitar, violin, and we play an open string, it sounds very different, has a different kind of resonance simply because of the nature of the play style. So let's listen to this and see if we get anything. See how open that sounds compared to yeah, so if you're doing a big breakdown, you're going to want this kind of aggressive sound where you're doing. All right, so let's move on. Now we understand play style a little bit better. Let's go into the strings. What kind of strings are we using? And I'll go back and forth between the play style category and strings. So we can choose to have a 5-string, 6-string, 4-string. That's pretty rad. Now it says drop here. I don't know if this has to do with drop tuning or not. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it does. So that's pretty cool. What about action? What does that have to do with? The action of the strings. Are they closer to the fretboard? Are they kind of farther up? That's definitely going to affect the tone of the bass. Let's take a listen to that. And here, let me bring up another bass part here. Let's do that. Yeah, you hear that buzzing when I go down to low action. And by the way, this could be a great sound for you. This may be something that you want. Yeah, you combine that with some cool effects in here, and all of a sudden, you've got a very aggressive sound. All right, so let's do action standard, and then What kind of strings are we using? Round wound or flat wound? So flat wound strings, from what I remember, are the older style of strings that somebody like Paul McCartney would use for the record. It has a very kind of neutralized, warm sound. And these are a little bit more rock and roll, modern. But I can totally see the point of having flat wound strings. In fact, I really want to get my bass restrung with these kind of strings, and worst case scenario, just get another one so I can have that tone. All right, so now we're going back to the gauge of the strings. Let's go to heavy. All right, so right away, you can hear the difference there. Let me go to finger style playing. I think we'll hear this a little bit better. Yeah, you can really hear the difference there. So this is great for customization. What about the age of the strings? Are they really old? Are they brand new? Again, another incredible feature. Right, it has more to do just with the character of the bass. So even if you have lighter strings, are they going to sound brand new, like they're right out of the case, right out of the box? Yeah, they really captured this, because that really does sound like old guitar strings. All right, cool. Let's move on to electronics. So here is the bridge of the neck. It looks like we can change humbuckers. Are you kidding me? Wow, that I did not know. So I have this Japan bass, and I'm using 60s P humbuckers. So let's check this out. Check out that hybridized model. All right, we can back off the volume, it looks like, a little bit here. I'm pretty sure this has to do with the volume of the humbucker. Okay, and then if I wanted to, I could change the next one over. All right, this next one, I don't know what it is. Piezo. I have no idea what that means. And so I'm trying to see if I can find some kind of help tag here. Not really seeing anything that kind of helps me break the ice, but we have something called piezo. Maybe I'll hear it better if I change back to, let's do a metal bass. No, that's not helping. Let me go back to this guy. Maybe it has to do with the reactivity of the humbuckers. Again, stay tuned. We will be covering more on this. Okay, are these pickups active or are they passive? So that's pretty cool, right? You can choose your pickups if they're active, if they're not. Can't believe you can actually change the electronics on this thing. I mean, let me know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the first of its kind? I've never seen anything like this. Let me know in the comments below. Okay, so let me change the strings. And let me go to another performance here. Okay, finally, we're moving into the amp and effects section. Looks like we have either a tube or a solid state amp that we can choose from. Let's see what they sound like. That sounds so realistic. It's amazing. Wild. All right. Let's see. Amp and effects. Let's play with punch. So if you want a cleaner sound, solid state's probably the way to go. And if you want a bit more of that distorted sound, looks like tube is the way to go. Looks like we get a graphic EQ, kind of general EQ here on the left-hand side. We can feed into the amplifier a little hotter, control the DI signal or the clean signal here. And if you click on the pedal board, it looks like you have control over the pedals and how they work. So that is pretty wild as well. So that's a compressor. Then we have a graphic EQ for further detail. And it looks like we have an octaver. Now my question is, how do I know that these are turned on? Oh, you have more effects inside of here. Let me see if I can, there we go. Okay, but now if I wanted to turn this off, what do? Just bring down the volume? Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I find it a little strange that they're just on here and you're not sure if they're on or off. So it looks like the chorus is on. The graphic EQ doesn't look like it's turned on. And oh, okay. So you just click on here and then quite literally it just turns on. Sweet. So that just wasn't clear. Let's go ahead and turn on the octaver. I'm curious what that's going to sound like. Yeah, I really appreciate that because now all of my bass needs are truly met. The only thing is, of course, I'm thinking distortion for like rock or blues or something like that. Let's see what this sounds like. All right, so here I am compressing the signal to even it out. I added the envelope filter and an octaver, and we're getting a pretty nice sound. Check it out. I like that little gain reduction meter. That's pretty sweet. So there it is, folks. Modo Bass in all its glory. Wonderful, wonderful instrument. The first iteration of its kind. Don't really see anything else underneath the hood that I can speak on now, but I will be covering this at length. I would say that this is a massive, massive, massive win for IK Multimedia. I, for one, am absolutely grateful that we get to live in a time and in an age where we get to really take advantage of this incredible scripting and sampling. This would have been virtually impossible back in the day, and so there's just so much to be thankful for. IK Multimedia, wishing you the very best on this incredible feat of modern engineering. This is Eddie Gray signing off on behalf of everyone at hfmusicacademy.com. Thank you so much. All we ask is that you share this video, share any of our videos, and that you subscribe. Go ahead and give us a like. It ultimately is going to help the channel grow. And I just wanted to thank you for subscribing and helping us push the message that you can do it too. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much. Stay up.